Welcome to College Smart Radio, helping you understand the true cost of college and tackle the runaway costs of financing a college education. College Smart Radio is hosted by Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz, founders of Westface College Planning. Now, your hosts for College Smart Radio, Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz.
What's in a business degree, and specifically an MBA? How do you know if an MBA is right for you and which school is the best fit for your goals? Our guest on today's College Smart Radio program is the Associate Director of the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. Nirav Mehta is joining us to discuss the world of MBAs. Hi, I'm Beatrice Schultz. I'm here in the studio today with Mark Guthrie. Welcome to our weekly show, College Smart Radio. With private schools costing well over $60,000 a year, UC's costing $35,000, and a California state running $25,000, parents need more help than ever. And we bring you that help by sharing our expertise as college planning practitioners and by sharing the expertise of our distinguished guests who are thought leaders in the higher education arena. I'm a certified financial planner, and Mark and I are the owners of the San Carlos-based college financial planning business, Westface College Planning. We also help parents with their investment and retirement plans through Westface Financial Advisory, a registered investment advisory firm. And in addition to our radio show, you can find lots of powerful information at our website, collegesmartradio.com. We have articles with up-to-date information on navigating the turbulent waters of college planning, links to our free community workshops and webinars, and you can sign up for our monthly e-newsletter full of useful content. So let's get into today's show. Our guest on today's show is the Associate Director at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. In his role, Nirav Mehta is in charge of strategy and operations of the many areas involved in running the Executive MBA program. He's armed with an MBA degree himself from the University of Michigan and has an undergraduate degree from UCLA, and he was part of the team that spearheaded the startup activities for the new Los Angeles campus in 2012. Hi, Nirav. Welcome to College Smart Radio.
Hello, Beatrice. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Well, we've got some excited listeners today. We spent a lot of time talking about undergraduate programs, but of course, there are many, many folks who are already thinking about their advanced degrees, and we've got lots of listeners who are through the undergrad process and thinking about the MBA process. So we'd love to get a little bit of your perspective on just what's happening across the country in general with trends around MBA programs, enrollment, schools expanding, contracting, just kind of what's the lay of the land as you see it today?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. So we are seeing a few trends from an application, competition, and a demographics perspective. So when we think about application, we can think of it sort of full-time MBA programs and professional MBA programs. So when it comes to the full-time MBA programs, we're starting to see applications rebounding with the majority of full-time two-year MBA programs reporting increased volumes. And this is significant because it's the first time we're seeing this since 2009. And so we're seeing sort of a surge in the number of foreign applicants, and that's really the source of the rising volumes. We've also seen a corresponding decline in the U.S. domestic applicant pool. Nonetheless, overall volumes are increasing in full-time MBA programs. On the professional MBA program side, we've seen a noticeable decline in the volumes, and this is for part-time, executive, flexible, online MBA. We think there are several reasons for this. First of all, there are a lot of demands on employees' time and competition among an increasing number of alternative program types. And so on the professional MBA program side, we are seeing a decline in volumes. From a competition standpoint, we've seen a proliferation of specialized degrees, which can be sort of thought of as a substitute to the MBA degree. And so whether it's the Master of Finance programs, of Master in Management programs, these types of programs have really created an impact for the MBA degree and impacts also to what we're seeing in terms of application volumes. And then in terms of demographics, I think the most interesting thing that we've seen last year is that the percentage of women in the business school applicant pool actually contracted. And the executive MBA and online MBA saw the most significant decreases. in the number of women applying to business schools. So those are some of the sort of high-level trends that we've seen in MBA programs.
Sure. Well, thanks for sharing that. We know that you live and breathe this every day, and it's great to get some insights on that. Talk a little bit, if you can, about the specifics between the full-time versus the professional, or specifically the executive program. Is the obviously the professional program is, I assume, all geared towards someone who's working and doing it weekends, nights, those types of things, versus day in and day out. But is the curriculum different? Is the classroom experience different? What are the key differences between a full-time program and a professional or an executive program?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So, as you alluded to, there are many, many different types of MBA programs. The most common one is the full-time MBA program, which is typically a 2-year journey, although there are some 1-year programs as well. And these don't necessarily require work experience. Now, the executive MBA program differs from a standard full-time program in two sort of main ways. One is sort of the job status, and the other is a program structure. So many EMBA students have been identified as potential leaders at their companies. They usually are required to have about 5 to 10 years of post-bachelorette experience. And of course, there are rare exceptions for rock stars. And so this allows the students to pursue their education while still earning a full pay. And in fact, many employers will cover all or a part of the fees. Furthermore, and as you mentioned, it is a slightly different approach to education. And so unlike a full-time MBA program in which classes are every day for the most part, in an EMBA program, classes are typically once a month on Fridays and Saturdays. And so the curriculum is really delivered at a macro or high level. And so unlike students in full-time programs that may really be doing a deep dive and performing extensive and intensive analysis, students in the EMBA programs will often interpret or assess their understanding on a macro level, similar to the way they may be required to do so as senior leaders in their companies. And so, of course, there are also other types, online MBA programs, evening MBA programs, weekend MBA programs. Each one is unique in the delivery, and students should really assess what works best for them. There is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to an MBA education.
Sure. Obviously, the starting point's very different. If you've got a 24-year-old who just came out of a marketing program versus a 30-year-old who's been working at a large corporation for 6 years, it's going to be a pretty different type of student coming in different learning techniques. With regards to, we just got a couple minutes here before our break, but with regards to undergraduate students who are pretty focused on being in business, and their goal is to get through their undergrad, work a couple of years, and then go to a professional program. What are, as you see applicants and see people do well and people struggle, what are the 2 or 3 tips you might give an undergraduate student to make sure they do a good job of during their bachelorette program to prepare them for the future in an MBA program?
That's a great question. And, it's never too early to think about how one can prepare for success in the sort of MBA application process. And so, one thing that I would encourage students, perhaps undergraduates, to do is to really think about how they will prepare for the GMAT. This is an exam that is required for admission to most business schools. It does take about 3 to 6 months of preparation, and so it's best to take this exam only when the student is prepared. And to get into a top school, students should aim to achieve a score of around 700. And of course, there's a variation, but if a student is really ambitious and wants to get into a top-notch school, again, they should aim for that kind of a score. And so,
and how is the 700? Is the maximum 800, or what's the best score you could get for a GMAT? Just for those listeners who aren't familiar with how the scoring works.
Yes, the highest score would be 800. The top schools have scores ranging anywhere from 600 to the mid 700s. And so, if one were to achieve a score of around 700, it would provide a level of assurance in terms of gaining acceptance to a top-notch school. Now, of course, there are other components to applying to an MBA program, and so the GMAT is really just one among many components that undergraduates should focus on.
Sure.
The other thing that I would recommend is to focus on really developing a strong network with professors, or maybe if they have a job on campus with their supervisors. And the reason why this is important is that when it comes time to applying for an MBA program, the prospective student will need to have a letter of recommendation, and most likely a few letters of recommendation. And so if students have really networked and established strong relationships with some of these individuals that they may be collaborating with during their undergraduate studies, it will help for them to provide the strongest possible recommendation.
Sure.
So I think those are some important things to consider. And then, really just...
Nirav, we're going to take a quick break here, but we'll be right back and finish that discussion. If you've just joined us, our guest on today's College Smart Radio show is Nirav Mehta, who's Associate Director of the University of Michigan. We've been discussing MBAs, and we'll be right back after a quick break.
College Smart Radio with Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz continues in moments on AM 1220 KDOW. For more information on today's topic, visit collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. Contact our hosts at collegesmartradio.com or call 650-587-1559. Now back to College Smart Radio with Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of college. I'm Beatrice Schultz, and I'm here in the studio with my co-host, Mark Guthrie. We all know that college is expensive and will most likely be some of the most costly years for a family. Understanding how to navigate the college costs is a smart thing to know. To help families be on this radio show, we host community workshops live and via webinar several times a month that explain the costs of various colleges, how the financial aid system works, and things to consider to prepare yourself for this tremendous expense. To learn more and reserve your seat, go to our website, collegesmartradio.com. If you've just joined us, we've been talking with our guest, Nirav Mehta, who's the Associate Director at the Ross Business School of Business at the University of Michigan. Before we cut you off, Nirav, we were talking about the way that students should prepare themselves to be, more likely to be accepted into the best MBA schools. And you talked about a couple of good criteria, one being work and get a good GMAT score, work on making your find references or build contacts, and then I cut you off before you got to your third one, so I'm going to let you go ahead.
Absolutely. So, I think it's also important to focus on those opportunities that will help develop a strong resume. On a macro level. So, it's okay if the student doesn't have full-time work experience, but it's really important that they really get involved on campus, deepen their volunteer or extracurricular activities by taking on leadership positions, which will afford them the chance to positively impact their community or a cause that they're interested in. And so, by doing that, it will help to create a much stronger resume, and these types of experiences will really be valued by the admissions committee.
Makes sense. So let's talk specifically now about MBA schools, and we're going to get into talk about the executive program at Michigan, at University of Michigan. I almost made a mistake there, but I caught myself at the University of Michigan. But when you talk to people about exploring MBA programs, what's the 2 or 3 key criteria they should look for to make sure there's a good match between the school and what they're looking for?
That's a great question. I think there's really 3 things that students assess. The first is, what kind of support network is available at the business school? if you're talking about a quality MBA degree program, it will enhance your ability to think strategically, manage efficiently, lead confidently. It will expose you to an array of business topics, including finance, accounting, marketing. But the support that you get from the university community is essential to the quality of that experience. And that should come from peers, faculty, staff, career counselors, alumni, campus services. So it's important to look to see if the MBA programs are offered in a structure that provides an opportunity to collaborate with these stakeholders.
How would someone find out that information if they're listening to the show right now and they're like, maybe I should be doing my MBA, or I've been thinking about it? Are there good resources to try to look at different programs and what's available and how well supported they are?
There are numerous publications that provide information on business schools. So Business Week is one example. I would encourage also students to just log on to the websites of the schools that they're interested in. There's a whole host of information that is shared via the company websites, the university websites. A lot of them have presence on Facebook and Twitter, and they're really sharing some interesting things that they're doing in business education. And so it's important to really read and research the MBA programs, utilizing some of these publications, and even going to the source themselves, which are business schools.
Sure.
And I also think it's important to understand what kind of learning experiences are being offered by the business school. Are they applied? Are they theoretical? And it's important because, different students learn different ways. And so it's important to understand exactly how the instruction will be delivered, whether there will be high-impact activities, whether there will be, case studies or, internship placements. Are there partnerships with organizations that will help to complement the theory with real-world learning, et cetera? So I think it's important to evaluate that component of MBA programs as well. And then finally, it's important to understand what will be the return on investment. Students want to make sure that their investment will be returned with significant professional growth, and the time that they're allocating to the MBA program should be one that has a lot of rewards post-MBA phase. And so one way to really understand what kind of a return on investment a student can expect is by, looking at the alumni network and determining, where are alumni being placed. A lot of MBA programs will actually publish this information in helping to understand which companies are recruiting the students, what are the starting salaries of the MBA students, and et cetera. So it's really important to evaluate this data because that will help them to measure the return on their investment.
Sure. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. So now let's talk specifically about the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. And you just kind of outlined some criteria. How does the Ross School at the University of Michigan stack up in those categories? What's the nature of the program? And share with our audience that, because probably most out here on the West Coast might not be familiar with it. They're more familiar with either the state schools or the private schools here on the West Coast.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And we just opened up our campus on the West Coast in Los Angeles 2 years ago. So we are still relatively new to the region. We are all about action-based learning. And so students that really not just want to learn about the theory, but apply it in the real world. And so that, I think, is a key differentiating factor for our business school. The Michigan Ross Executive MBA program, which is the program that we have started in Los Angeles, is one that integrates academics with intense leadership development. And so the EMBA journey begins with obviously the core business essentials, and as the student's expertise deepens, the emphasis then shifts to strategic thinking and solidifying their understanding on an enterprise-wide level. We actually offer something called ExecMap, which is our signature in-company consulting project that spans about 4 months. And so students really have an opportunity to make recommendations, to implement strategies at real companies. We're talking about Fortune 500 companies. We're talking about startup organizations. We're talking about nonprofit organizations, so that the students can make an impact on a real scale before they graduate and earn their degree. We also focus our curriculum on sort of a global experience. And so during the last term, we synthesized the learning through a global intensive experience that combines the learning that they've had previously in sort of a complex global environment. And so our hope is that our EMBA candidates emerge with the executive skills, but also the cross-functional and global mindset that they can use to then lead people and teams at the highest levels in any organization around the world.
That sounds great. I mean, now as far as an alumni, obviously the University of Michigan has a long history, and I don't know how long their MBA program has been around, but I would assume there's an extensive alumni of University of Michigan MBA graduates around the United States and around the globe. Oh,
yes. And in fact, one of the reasons why we decided to open up shop in Los Angeles, we have a very strong alumni presence on the West Coast. And in order to make this effort sustainable, we really do need alumni support. And so, during the 2 years that we've started this program, we've had such an incredible outpouring of support from our alumni body. We've had them come as speakers. We've had them actually sponsor these ExecMap projects. We've had them attend our networking sessions. And it's really not just the West Coast. I mean, as you mentioned, these are alumni that are spread across the country and throughout the world. And so it really helps to have that kind of an alumni network that's not just strong in terms of quantity, having 500,000 living alumni across the world, but also it's the quality of the alumni pool. These are individuals that are in sort of the highest positions in their organizations. So it does help our students from a networking standpoint to be able to develop those relationships and also potentially, recruit them into their companies. So it's a really great relationship we have with our alumni.
So, Nirav, we're just coming down to the last sort of 30 seconds of the show, but can you tell me what website or where potential students could go to find out a little bit more about the University of Michigan Executive MBA program?
Sure. So our website is www.biz, that's B-U-S, .umich, that's UMICH.edu. And on that website, students can learn about the various MBA programs that we have, including our Executive MBA program. We have information sessions in Los Angeles on a monthly basis. So if any student is interested in learning more of the program, I would love to have the opportunity to connect with them and help them understand how a Michigan Ross MBA program may be right for them.
Well, thank you so much, Nirav. Thanks for joining us on College Smart Radio.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, that wraps up another weekly show of College Smart Radio. We hope you picked up some new information today that helps you figure out ways to manage the runaway costs of college. You can hear us each week here on KDOW, 1220 AM, Saturdays at 3 p.m. We promise to bring you up-to-date information from the front lines of helping parents and students deal with the most expensive years of their lives. For a link to a podcast of this show and our prior weekly shows, you can go to our website, collegesmartradio.com. Plan to join us at one of our upcoming Westface College Planning workshops and webinars. You can register and learn more at the show's website, collegesmartradio.com. This is Beatrice Schultz.
And this is Mark Guthrie.
Thanks for tuning in to College Smart Radio. We look forward to sharing more helpful information with you next week.
You've been listening to College Smart Radio with Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz. If you have questions on today's topic, log on to collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. That's 650-587-1559. And join us next week at this time for another edition of College Smart Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
Information presented during today's show is not to be construed as advice meeting the particular needs of any investor. All mention of performance is based on historical experience. It should not be assumed that past performance is any indication of future results. Tax Center legal advice is not offered by Mark Guthrie or Beatrice Schultz. Please consult your tax professional for additional guidance regarding tax-related matters. Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz are owners and investor advisor representatives of Westface Financial Advisory. College planning services offered through Westface College Planning. Insurance services offered through Westface Financial and Insurance Services. License number OF 35251. Financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Westface Financial Advisory.